Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of How I Shoot, the show where we talk about your film production projects shot with Kinefinity cameras. I have with me today Andrei Savchuk from Moscow, Russia. Andrei, tell us a bit about how you came into this line of work. How did you start? What's your professional background?
Меня зовут Андрей Савчук.
My name is Andrei Savchuk and I work as a colorist in the company Color Larek. My professional work started 15 years ago in company Salamandra. Many years I worked with color correction of cinema film. I worked with DaVinci and DaVinci 2K extensively. I worked in Poggle Platinum and worked with Spirit Data Sign and TV Cinema Quadro. I also used scanners from ARRI. Later on, I kept working with application Digital Vision Encoder. As 95% of colorists in Russia, I work with DaVinci Resolve. Of course, now I work predominantly with digital material on digital cameras such as ARRI, RED, and Kinefinity.
So, you run a camera rental in Moscow. Tell us a bit about the feedback you got from your customers working with Kinefinity cameras, and how did you convince professionals to use Kinefinity cameras for the first time?
На данный момент у нас есть в нашей компании.
At the moment in our company we have a whole subcategory for renting Kinefinity equipment in Moscow. This is the only place where you can rent this equipment for professional shooting. How did I start attracting new clients to rent this equipment and work with it? It was quite a difficult task, and I started doing the following. I shot some test material and invited cinematographers with whom I work to show the material and how one could edit it and what kind of results one could get. A lot of cinematographers were impressed by the price since it is not so expensive. Therefore, they agreed to rent this equipment for some inexpensive projects to test it. During the work, the equipment received good reviews, and those cinematographers who tried it once or twice gradually transitioned to using it regularly. And now there's a pool of cinematographers who work with it permanently. It is actually difficult to promote this equipment in Russia since most of the cinematographers are used to equipment like ARRI and RED. Thus, they're very skeptical about the Chinese producers. There's a certain misconception that this equipment is of low quality, and as a result, they're scared to rent it for projects.
Now, how do you see the future of Kinefinity in Russia? What needs to happen for Kinefinity to gain widespread acceptance among the local cinematography community?
Я надеюсь, что будущее у техники Kinefinity.
I hope that the future of Kinefinity in Russia is quite optimistic, since the price of the equipment is quite low in comparison. Some of the companies can afford buying this equipment instead of renting it for a project. They can make a project with their own camera, which is going to be the same price as renting other expensive equipment, and as a bonus, the companies can use it for other projects. What does the company have to do in order to promote itself on the Russian market? I think that the most important thing is to provide more information about the company. At the moment, the company is quite informationally detached, and there's absolutely no information about it in the Russian language. 95% of the people who hear the word Kinefinity are quite surprised and saying that they've never heard about it before. Kinefinity also should have its own local dealer in Russia. Although Russia geographically is located in Europe, it doesn't have any economic relation to European markets. So buying Kinefinity equipment in Europe is going to be the same as trying to buy it in China on your own. Therefore, we need a local dealer that will provide support and guarantee so that people can trust this product.
Now, please give us some feedback on working with footage from Kinefinity cameras. How does it compare to other high-end cinema cameras like RED or ARRI?
Я считаю, что камеры Kinefinity выдают.
I believe that Kinefinity cameras produce a very good quality material for color grading, which you can use to get the desired final result. I recommend everybody not to edit the material too much on post-production, but rather set up a nice balance and contrast which will give an image already an impressive look. In terms of color transmission and color science, I believe that Kinefinity operates a lot like ARRI Alexa. If all of them are used in one production, it would be quite easy to merge the footage in post-production. And if you were to show this already color-graded footage, which I did, one would not be able to tell which camera was used. At the moment, I like the footage from Kinefinity better than from Red, especially if we're talking about older generations, with exception of the latest Red camera that costs a lot more than Kinefinity. Besides, Kinefinity camera has a lot of bonuses. It shoots better resolution than Alexa Mini. It can record higher frame rates than Alexa. And even if we're cropping the image, it still produces very high quality.
Now, as a colorist, if you compare Kinefinity's Cinema DNG and ProRes 4444, what's your opinion? How would you say they compare, and is Cinema DNG really worth the extra trouble?
Я всем своим клиентам рекомендую снимать.
I recommend to all of my clients to shoot in Apple ProRes and omit shooting Cinema DNG, even though the former is not really a RAW format. The thing is, Cinema DNG in Kinefinity camera does not provide any advantages, neither in dynamic range nor in post-production. It only gives us a huge file size, and the format Cinema DNG itself, created by Kinefinity, has issues with DaVinci compatibility. The default Cinema DNG footage appears weird, so one has to do some settings manipulation to get it in order. As I said before, there are no advantages in terms of dynamic range and color. Plus, internal debayering recorded in ProRes is really good, and the final product turns out to be spectacular. Therefore, shooting in Cinema DNG does not really make much sense.
Alright, for our last question, I want to know if you had one wish for one feature, no matter if it's possible or impossible, to make Kinefinity cameras even better, what would it be?
Я бы не отказался от...
I wouldn't mind image stabilization if the company can manage to do that. The camera itself is pretty small and easily transportable without additional accessories. So, stabilization of the sensor would be a great add-on. Also, it would be a good idea to transition from the SSD drives to M2 drives, which can potentially make the whole camera even lighter.
Alright, that's it for today. Thank you very much, Andrei, for joining us.
Всем спасибо за внимание. Пока-пока. До новых встреч.
Thanks everybody for your attention. Bye-bye.
To you out there, I'll be putting some links to some of his works in the description here below. Thanks for watching and see you next time.